The media stuff is so shocking to me because I worked at CNN for years, and I hosted a couple shows there, several shows there. And then I was the main anchor in MSNBC for 4 years. I got fired. But, I still have a really good friend who will remain nameless, who works there, just a wonderful person, really good guy. And I have a couple of friends at CNN. So not a ton, too. But anyway, I know that world really, really well. And the biggest surprise for me in one sentence is how illiberal they are. I always imagine they're liberal networks. No. I'm liberal. Okay. In the sense that, like, I believe in the Enlightenment, and I believe in the Bill of Rights, and I think we do have rights. They are not liberals. They are defenders of the powerful, which is the much graver sin. Like, you can have silly politics. I get it. I've had silly politics. Maybe I do now. People make mistakes. But defending the billionaire class, blaming everything on, like, working class white people who are, like, by far the most shafted people in America. Look at the suicide rate. Look at the death rate. I mean, it's like, it's measurable, but everything's their fault.
I just want to talk about the media landscape in general, because one of the things that I'm realizing now that I'm back on the grid is I spend so much of the time on my show just cleaning up lies. Just AOC said this, it's a lie. CNN said this, it's a lie. Kavanaugh, everything they said was a lie. Covington kids, all the stuff that you've covered, obviously. And I'm just a little curious, first off, like, how bad you think really, like, the CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, WAPO machine is on one hand, but on the other hand, just like a little insider stuff on how you guys go about doing your show on a daily basis. Because I know your producers a little bit, and obviously I go on the show, and I find that you do the show in a way where it's like, you're almost doing like it almost feels more like a book than a TV show, where it's like each day you're doing something and then you sort of pick up the next day and pick up the next day. And I'm trying to do something similar here so that everything doesn't feel like this disconnected lunacy that everyone else is in. I'm just wondering a little bit about, like, the nuts and bolts about how you guys decide to do what you're going to do.
Well, I'm a writer, so that's how I think, in terms of chapters and, serials. This is a story, giving you one installment today, another tomorrow. It's just how my brain works. But as a practical matter, I wake up not too early, I hope. And with my wife and 4 dogs, I try and sit outside for a minute, get my head together. And then I write out a memo every morning for the whole staff on what I think the lead ought to be, who we should book. And we've got a whole pipe. We have some unbelievable people who work on the show, just really, really smart. I mean, really smart. And one of the people I talk to a lot, so, we've had, if I can brag, the same staff for 5 years. I think we've lost one person, 2 people, and it's a pretty big staff. And they're all in. They're so clever. They're so creative. They're so interesting. But one of our head tape guy is a guy called Tom Fox. The guy's just a freaking genius. And he really is my window into cable news. Like, the poor guy is very smart, but he watches all this cable news. So he's constantly texting.
He drinks a lot, I'm guessing.
What?
He drinks a lot, I'm guessing.
I don't, he seems pretty sober, but I mean, maybe he's on pills. I don't know. But I I sit there with my, stupid glasses on and my phone, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I honestly can't believe that. I cannot believe they would say this. So basically by like 11:30 in the morning, I've sketched out what I think the show should be. In my mind, it's always because, again, I was a reporter and a magazine writer. I think in terms of the lead, so my editor used to say to me when I was a kid, get in the lead. They're like, but what's the lead? Like, how do you open it up? What's the theme? And I try to, as an exercise that I've always, that I learned as a kid and I've always used, sum it up in a sentence. What's it about? Our first segment usually goes 20, 25 minutes. What's it about? One sentence. It's not about 8 things. It's about one thing. How would you summarize it? And that's a really helpful organizing principle for putting it together. And then, right around 5 o'clock, I try and take a sauna every day because I think it's really important.
Nice.
As a Scandinavian, I'm true to my people. And I think about it in the sauna. Then I go out, I think about it more. And then I sit down around 5, have a cup of coffee, and I start writing the lead. And so that's basically it. But the media stuff is so shocking to me because I worked at CNN for years, and I hosted a couple shows there, several shows there. And then I was the main anchor in MSNBC for 4 years. I got fired. But, I still have a really good friend who will remain nameless who works there, just a wonderful person, really good guy. And I have a couple of friends at CNN. So not a ton, too. But anyway, but I know that world really, really well. And the biggest surprise for me in one sentence is how illiberal they are. I always imagine they're liberal networks. No. I'm liberal. Okay. In the sense that, like, I believe in the Enlightenment and I believe in the Bill of Rights. And I think we do have rights. They are not liberals. They are defenders of the powerful, which is the much graver sin. Like, you can have silly politics. I get it. I've had silly politics. Maybe I do now. People make mistakes. But defending the billionaire class, blaming everything on like working class white people who are like, by far the most shafted people in America. Look at the suicide rate. Look at the death rate. I mean, it's like, it's measurable, but everything's their fault. It's insane. CNN ran a piece today saying white supremacists are applauding the Taliban. And it's like, okay, I don't even know what they're talking about. Who are these white? But leaving that aside, it's like, what are you really saying? You're saying the real problem with the withdrawal from Afghanistan was not terrible decisions that the Biden administration made or the Pentagon made, or that our entire foreign policy establishment, bipartisan, made for 20 years. No, the real problem is some guy in Alabama who's got unauthorized views. It's like, maybe you should stop attacking these people because they are the weakest people in our society, and you're doing it in order to defend like the shittiest people in our society, but also the richest and the most powerful. You're the Praetorian Guard for the most powerful people. Like, how can you live with yourself? I mean that. That is so immoral.
So what do you think the answer to that question is? How do they, when you have to cover some idiotic thing that Stelter said or Cuomo, just these clown people, when you have to cover it, right? Or Don Lemon, as you call him, like how do you think they live with themselves at this point when they just lie again and again, and we have the internet to expose the lies? If this isn't 20 years ago when you were on CNN, and we couldn't expose things, we can expose it now and they still do it.
Well, I guess I would ask myself, like, I mean, I lie. If I'm really cornered or something, I lie. I really try not to. I try never to lie on TV. I just don't, I don't like lying. I certainly do it, out of weakness or whatever. But to systematically lie like that without asking yourself, like, why am I doing this? So if these people ask themselves, why am I doing this? You say, well, because I want to protect the system, because I really believe in the system. Okay, who's running the system? You're lying to defend Jeff Bezos? Like, you're treating Bill Gates like some sort of moral leader? Like, are you kidding? Like, how dare you do that? How dare you use your power to protect and guard the powerful, even as you put your boot on the neck of the weakest piece? Some Catholic school kid from Kentucky? It's like a parody. Are you kidding? He's a child. And you're using your power to crush him, to wreck his life. Like, that shocks me. And I have to say, there have been many times in the 25 years I've been in TV where I think, are we using this like very substantial power that we have to put pictures on the screen to hurt weak people? And I have done that inadvertently over the years because I got carried away. But I really try not to. And everyone who works on our show is very aware of like the most basic rule, which is don't piss down. Don't attack people beneath you. If you're going to, take a punch, make sure it's upward. Someone who's richer, stronger, more powerful, in charge of more things than you are. Punch up. Like, that's just like a life rule. And people who punch down are the worst. They should have no power whatsoever, in my opinion.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about the media instead of nonstop yelling, check out our media playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, check out the full episode playlist. They're both right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.